Hello everyone, my name is Thierry Carrez. I work for the Open Infrastructure Foundation, which was previously known as the OpenStack Foundation. OpenStack is an open source framework to build an alternative to the big hyperscalers. And more recently, we moved to supporting more widely open infrastructure, which is why we renamed to the Open Infrastructure Foundation. I'm based in France, so the questions of digital sovereignty are important to me. The fact that most hyperscale clouds like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google are all based in the US, and that means your data is ultimately controlled by other jurisdictions. The theme for OW2Con this year is leveraging the European open source ecosystem. So I've been wondering, how can we leverage the vibrant European open source ecosystem to build our digital sovereignty? That's where the idea of this talk came from. But first, what do we mean by digital sovereignty? Why does it matter and how do we enable it? The 21st century is driven by software. In a fast-changing world, whoever adapts the fastest wins. And it's a question of disrupt or be disrupted. Adapting fast means shipping new features fast, delivering new applications fast. And the way you deliver those applications has been evolving. 20 years ago, you would procure some physical hardware, and as an application deployer, you would install an operating system, your dependencies, and your applications directly on top of that. That took a lot of time and maintenance work. So we started to add more abstractions, more layers. We added hardware virtualization, abstracting the server you're deploying on from the physical hardware that runs it. You gained a lot of efficiency doing that. Then we added cloud APIs to allow to programmatically access those virtualized resources. So you have programmable infrastructure on one side and cloud-aware applications being deployed on top of that. This programmable infrastructure is key to reach the next level of velocity. Machines need to be able to provision the resources they need by themselves. But building up this programmable infrastructure by yourself is pretty hard. It is complex to do, and it is difficult to hire people that know how to do it because there is a lot of demand for those skills on the market. Luckily, you can pay others to do it for you, thanks to public clouds. But the trick is, the public cloud market is cornered by a couple of internet giants, mostly based in the US or China. So that creates a challenge, especially for European governments and companies. The challenge is that to stay competitive, European companies need access to programmable infrastructure. And the simplest way to do that is to use a hyperscale cloud, public cloud based in the US. But data is the basic resource of the 21st century, and which legislation the company that holds your data is under ultimately defines who controls it. The US government can compel a US company to disclose their customer data. In case of a geopolitical conflict, the US government could shut down your access to vital data. That creates a significant geopolitical vulnerability. And if the last 10 years are any guide, that vulnerability, if left unaddressed, will only grow. Beyond that, even assuming good intent on those companies and governments, the jurisdiction under which your data is held controls which laws apply to it. And Europe has very progressive privacy laws that protect individuals from the reach of greedy data aggregation giants. How do we enforce those laws in a future where all data lives in places escaping those laws? The solution, of course, is to build our own European-based public clouds. But it's easier said than done. Europe has a vibrant ecosystem of companies, but it lacks the giants that can compete with Google or Amazon. How can we turn that vibrant ecosystem of smaller actors from a liability to an asset? Germany and France have acknowledged that critical geopolitical vulnerability for a while, and we had several attempts at building giant sovereign clouds in the past, but they were not adapted to the nature of the European ecosystem. A new initiative was launched last year called Gaia-X. Rather than trying to establish a new giant from scratch, Gaia-X takes the problem from the other end. How to enable a vibrant ecosystem of smaller companies to provide a rich, coherent, interoperable service offering, one that encapsulates advanced privacy laws rather than works around them. Gaia-X is a framework to describe infrastructure and data services, federate them into a single catalog, and make them interoperable. It allows to share identity across services and lets you specify the guarantees you want to apply to your data in terms of geographical location or encryption. Gaia-X is not a giant public cloud. It's a framework to describe disparate, smaller cloud services as a federated, interoperable offering, turning that vibrant ecosystem of smaller actors from a liability to an asset. The code for the Gaia-X framework, specifications, catalog of services, federated identity will be open source. But the infrastructure and data services that will be accessible through Gaia-X can be proprietary. But I think open source has a role to play, and more specifically, open infrastructure. Open source solutions that provide programmable infrastructure. So how can open infrastructure help? If we go back to our picture with programmable infrastructure on one side and cloud-aware applications on the other, open infrastructure is solutions that help you provide that programmable infrastructure. And more generally, we serve that new population that we call infrastructure providers, which is distinct from application developers and deployers. That is the movement we started with OpenStack, and that has extended beyond OpenStack now. So why use open source for infrastructure? Why does it matter? Well, first, it gives everyone access to infrastructure providing technology. All organizations, all countries. It allows to distribute the future more evenly. And by making those technologies accessible to all, we allow everyone to play and innovate without friction or having to ask for permission. We basically maximize innovation. Beyond those two key benefits, there are a number of other key properties of open infrastructure that makes it especially suitable to applying it to digital sovereignty. Independence is one of them. Open infrastructure is not just open source, it's also openly developed. That means everyone can participate on a level playing field, under neutral governance, with nobody owning the keys to the kingdom. That independence and neutrality is key to enable an interoperable ecosystem. Another benefit of open development is transparency. All technical discussions are happening in public. All project governance decisions are also publicly documented. Trust is essential in building sovereign cloud solutions, and open infrastructure is naturally transparent. Finally, being accessible to all means that everyone can standardize on the same solution, enabling interoperability. Interoperability is the main challenge in federating smaller actors. It's really hard to eliminate the differences and present a coherent user experience. Standardizing on features is the first layer. Using the same APIs is a layer above that. Using the same technical stack is even better. But the ultimate level in interoperability is to use the same distribution and operation stacks. And that's the challenge that Sovereign Cloud Stack aims to solve. Sovereign Cloud Stack is an initiative led by Kurt Garloff, aiming to build a standard stack for providing sovereign infrastructure. It would be a complete Gaia-X compatible programmable infrastructure solution. And by reusing that stack, providers can be sure to be compatible and join a federation of interoperable providers. The stack provides VMs, containers, Kubernetes clusters by integrating open infrastructure solutions like OpenStack, Kubernetes, or Ceph. It is highly opinionated, which is the price to pay to be truly interoperable. And finally, it is openly developed open source. So it's open source, of course, but also openly designed, openly developed under an open governance model. Several companies already joined this initiative, essentially from Germany and France at this stage, like Deutsche Telekom or OVH Cloud. But we are seeing other European companies like City Network or Stack HPC join the initiative. So in summary, digital sovereignty is a major challenge for Europe in the 21st century. We need a solution to turn an ecosystem of smaller actors from a liability to an asset. Gaia-X is the European solution to foster this federation of smaller actors. It provides a way to specify your requirements and discover compatible infrastructure and data processing services. Open Infrastructure is open source infrastructure solutions for applications, data processing, data storage, and networking. By being openly developed, it enables independence from single vendors and transparency in decision making. It reduces friction and gives everyone access to the technology, allowing everyone to standardize on an interoperable offering. Sovereign Cloud Stack goes one step further by producing a standard distribution and operational stack compatible with Gaia-X that maximizes interoperability for adopters of the same stack. By doing so, it facilitates the federation of smaller actors into a solid, diverse, and interoperable offering. Thank you for your attention, and thanks to OW2Con for the opportunity to present